Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there to my actual left on the great audio recording device that we have that we're just frustrated with for the past half hour or so. But to my actual left is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing very well. It's the best time of the year. One of my favorite annual shows that we do. It's the playoff preview show. Like, it's not regular season anymore. That's over. Aaron Judge had 62 home runs. That was pretty cool.
Yes, he did do that. Kind of got buried under the radar. Just kidding. Yeah. No, it was a big thing. there were a lot of people frustrated, like, I'm watching TCU versus Oklahoma State, and I got Aaron Judge on the double box, and it's like, yes, I would find that annoying if I wasn't that interested, but I think it's a good sign of like, oh, the home run chase, or whatever home run chase that was actually means something to the sports world.
It does, but like, part of me felt like it was a little forced.
Yeah, I get that.
Like there's like.
Also, it's
like,
not
also, did they do a double box or did it just completely cut away? Because like I've seen like fan edits of like the kick six, like the Auburn game where it just cuts away and it's like Jordan Lyles throwing a ball to Aaron Judge and you just miss the whole touchdown. Like, did it completely cut away or was it like a box, like a double box?
I'm pretty sure it was a double box.
I hope so because that's other than that, that's such a stupid way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, I understand how that would be frustrating. And I do understand the force thing because also, it's he's seventh all time on the home run list.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think when people said like, oh, he's going for the AL record, they meant, I think they were kind of like, oh, that he's going for the clean record though.
Roger Maris Jr. definitely meant that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Talk about.
That was the one thing that I hated about the idea of Aaron Judge getting to 62. Like, it's fun to appreciate history as it happens, but it was like, man, the discourse over this is going to be so exhausting because now we're going to have to listen to Aaron Judge is the clean champion.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Which is annoying.
Yeah.
One thing I just want to say, like, if anything, obviously watching Aaron Judge get to 62 was cool. I got to watch it live. And it was a very special thing to watch, but I'm not going to lie, it made me appreciate Barry Bonds 73 a lot more. Like, Judge would have needed like another month to get to 73.
Exactly, yeah.
That's 11 home runs off.
Yeah. Yeah, no yeah, no doubt about it. And like this is a season where Aaron Judge is getting 11.4 F-WAR. I mean, this is one of the greatest seasons of all time. But yeah, he would have needed another month to get to Bonds in the home run column. That's absolutely. Yeah, but it was good. I would say I'm happy he did it just cuz especially with like he had like 15 games to hit those two.
Mm-hmm.
And if he didn't get that second one, it just, I would have felt very bad for him, to be honest.
Especially going into the postseason, like,
right.
That's all that's going to be asked. It's like, oh, has the pressure of not getting there, like, has that affected your postseason and your mindset? Like, he was going to get bombarded with questions about that, and now he doesn't have to. Like, he can go into the postseason just on a clean slate, Like, I think we're kind of past the point of him getting contract questions because those were probably all asked in the beginning of the season. Maybe a little bit, throughout the home run chase, but like he can just go in and do his thing because obviously this is probably the most important postseason that Aaron Judge has ever played in his career. He's made it, I guess, every full season of his career since 2017, and every time the Yankees have come up short. But this is the one. There's a lot of expectations placed on them. They can rewrite a lot of history, especially if they beat the Astros in the ALCS. And I think it'd be really special to see for them.
Yeah, because also with Judge now, like, back in 2017, they they beat the Twins in the wild card series. They beat
Wild card
Cleveland.
game.
Wild card game. They beat Cleveland in the ALDS, and went to 7 with the Astros. But and Judge was the best guy on that team, but it wasn't the team leader. He wasn't expected to be that.
Mm-hmm.
This year, he's the guy with the veteran experience.
It's his team.
Yes, 100%. He's
I don't even know.
Is he
really,
the longest tenured Yankee right now?
he might be.
It's
Because
very possible.
I'm trying to think. Brett Gardner's gone. CeCe's gone.
Yeah.
Tanaka's gone.
Right. Yeah,
He
Garrett Cole
might
just joined,
be.
and he's the other veteran
I'm trying to think.
leader.
There's got to be someone else, right?
I feel like there's some reliever, but it's not like David Robertson's there or anything.
Yeah, no, he might be the longest tenured Yankee.
But yeah, Stanton didn't join till
The year
after.
after that, yeah.
DJ LeMahieu didn't get to New York until 2019. Yeah, I guess Severino, but Severino and
Yeah,
Judge.
I guess Severino.
But
That
Judge has
is.
been around the clubhouse much more than Luis Severino because of all the injuries he's had to endure. Chapman's the longest tenure.
Yeah.
He.
Because he joined before the 25th. Or was that either 2015 or 16
And then he
season?
left.
Yeah, no, it was 16 because then he got traded for Gleyber Torres. Yeah, okay, so
and then
Chapman.
he signed again in 2017.
Yeah, okay, so Chapman and Severino. Chapman's probably not even on the playoff roster.
Probably not. Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why the Yankees would. They have other lefty relievers, and also they've gone to that well too many times in the postseason.
Right, and it's just not the same Aroldis Chapman that they signed in 2017. He's
No, understandably so. He's 4 now.
he's 34.
I don't know if Savant was broken or not, but I saw the other week he was throwing 95 mile an hour fastballs, four seam, and I was just like, man, he's so cooked.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of that's what made him dangerous, and just looking at the plain numbers, nothing too analytical to it. I mean, he has 6.9 walks per 9 this year, a 4.57 FIP, 4.46 ERA. Could just be an off year. Who knows with some injuries, but
I don't know. He was pretty bad at the end of last year too.
Yeah,
It wouldn't surprise me. Honestly, he might just get DFA'd over the offseason.
I think he's a free agent.
Is he?
After this year.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember they restructured his contract after 2019 to make it a give him 3 more years.
That.
Oh wait, I'm not on his page. Okay.
I was gonna say, why are you scrolling up?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a free agent after 2022.
Okay, yeah. So he's probably pitched his last game as a Yankee by now.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, they have so many other options in the back end of the bullpen. Not really necessary to keep Chapman around.
Yeah. And I mean, all you've ever known with Chapman in the postseason is he ends their season, right? 2019 and 2020, he gave up the game-winning home run in the decisive game of the series.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It's funny, Chapman has given up 3 postseason homers in his career, and they've all been monumental homers. Because there was the Rajai Davis one in 2016. That was in World Series Game 7.
All ones you would see in postseason promo videos.
Yeah, or even just those 10-minute compilations on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's top MLB postseason highlights of the last decade. All 3 are Aroldis Chapman home runs. There's the Mike Brasso one, there's the Altuve one.
Biggest MLB crowd reactions, Mike Brasso.
The fake crowd in San Diego.
They were going crazy.
Yeah, dude, Tampa Bay was going nuts in San Diego.
I mean, it was a home game. It was Game 5.
Bottom of the 8th.
Bottom of the 8th.
1-1 game.
Yeah,
it's the moments you live for.
Yeah. But yeah, the Yankees are not playing this weekend, but we got 8 teams playing this weekend. It's the first time that we have the outside of 2020,
Wild card weekend is gonna be so dope.
it's gonna be. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to handle myself.
Yeah,
It's
like 2020 almost felt overwhelming. Like there was an 8-game Wednesday,
yeah,
I believe, which was cool, but also like it didn't help that it was a Wednesday and I had a lot of work to do that day.
exactly.
At school. I remember you were trying out for the Springfield baseball
Yeah.
team and like you had to miss half the day.
Yeah,
And I like texted you like I kept texting you throughout like the 2-hour period that you were gone. I was like, dude, Luis Robert just hit like a 480-foot homer. Oh my God, Liam Hendricks just had an amazing save.
Yeah.
Like 2 hours apart.
it's like, hey, check me. I just hit a ball out of the infield in batting practice on Archie Allen Field.
Yep.
It was what a fun time.
You did
Yeah.
4-game Friday and Saturday to start the playoffs is like honestly it should be like this from now on. Like it probably won't because obviously like the reason that the postseason starts Friday is because of the lockout. You know, the season
Yeah.
didn't end on Sunday like it normally
Mhm.
does. But a 4-game Friday and Saturday to start the playoffs should be an every year thing.
Yeah, it did feel weird ending the regular season on a Wednesday
felt-
this year.
Oh, yeah, it did feel very weird.
However, like
I wouldn't mind a 4-day break,
if
as
you,
crazy as it sounds. But
if-
also like the teams with buys might not like that.
it did feel weird, but yeah, I mean, like it would just be much better for just fans to open the postseason on the weekend,
Yep.
and especially like when it's 4 games in a row like this. Obviously, when it was just a wild card game, it's fine to just throw it on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and just have that at night. But I mean, first game's at 12 p.m.
Yeah.
Here,
Well, we're gonna be in class.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna be taking notes on my laptop.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean.
I mean, our professor Amy, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but I might be watching the game in your class, but I'll try to pay attention too. I promise.
Yeah. It is
Because
funny.
it's what Rays Guardians to start tomorrow.
Rays guard. Yeah, it's McClanahan Bieber. But yeah, it is funny. Yeah, the one one of our only consistent listeners is going to be teaching a class of ours at 12 p.m. right when the playoffs start. But I'll do my best to pay the attention of Com 301
Yeah.
sport media and culture. So yeah, do we want to get into these series?
Yeah, I kind of do want to. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a good option
that would be a
for
good.
us. I love that for us,
Yeah,
talking about the playoffs.
Nothing better.
Yeah. So yeah, I ordered in our little prep sheet here. I ordered it.
I do appreciate the prep sheet. I'll never forget, by the way, 3 years ago when the playoffs started. Like, I came into ARR knowing like we had barely spoken before the first time we did a
Yeah.
podcast together. We just knew that we both liked baseball, and I was like, okay, this kid probably doesn't know that I'm like hardcore. So I was like, whatever. Like, I'm glad to just have a baseball podcast, even if like the knowledge is one-sided. And you came in with a prep sheet of like Max Scherzer's September ERA. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna work out so well.
Yeah. I don't really wear the. I don't think I wore the baseball whatever savantism on my sleeve as much early on. I don't know. It just
Oh, I remember you sat behind me in our intro to comm class, and you were like, "Oh yeah, I saw you like on Fangraphs during class."
yeah. I remember. I was like, yeah, this guy's into baseball stats, no doubt about it.
I'm going on Fangraphs just to read the articles. I have no idea what WRC Plus is.
But yeah, this is as I was doing this, I was like, man, what a good reminder of our first episode, because
We were going into the wild card series is
every time we preview the every time we preview the playoffs, it's like around the anniversary of when the podcast started, so it's always a good refresher. But yeah, the Guardians and Rays are starting. Their first game is at 12 p.m. on Friday. You got Shane Bieber for the Guardians against Shane McClanahan. And what do we got Saturday? I don't think Cleveland
it's
has
Glasnow
announced.
versus. It's weird because Cleveland, as of on MLB's app, Cleveland's announced a Game 3 starter, but not a Game 2 starter.
Interesting.
The Rays have announced Tyler Glass now for Game 2. My
Smart.
guess would be Tristan McKenzie for the Guardians in Game 2, and then the Rays have not announced a Game 3 starter. And then the Guardians have announced Cal Quantrill. I'm assuming it would probably be Drew Rasmussen.
Yeah.
So let's just say it's McClanahan versus Bieber, Glasnow versus McKenzie, and then Rasmussen versus Quantrill.
Yeah. So, information for this series: Guardians won the season series 4-2. They outscored the Rays 22-18, so it wasn't really lopsided. And those series happened in late July and late September, so
Yeah.
not something where it's like
Rays were just in Cleveland.
Yeah. This series kind of just happened exactly. The Guardians finished the season 24-6. They had the best record in baseball by 3 games in that 30-game span. However, it was a easier schedule. 27 of those 30 games were against non-playoff teams, and the only 3 games that were against playoff teams were against the Rays. Rays, meanwhile, are finished the opposite way. They finished 8-18, worst record in the AL in that span. However, 20 of those 26 games were against playoff teams, so they faced very stiff competition. But the records are what they are. Over the last month.
Yeah.
And then if you want to look at because the Guardians are playing all 3 games at home. If you want to look at those records, Guardians are 46-35 at home, which is identical to their road record. Rays are 35-46 on the road, and that is the worst road record among playoff teams by 5 games.
That's tough.
What do you take away? What are you looking at with this series?
This is interesting because I think the big takeaway from the playoffs the last couple of years is that home runs really matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Sarah Lang's former ARR alum had a tweet about, I think it was last year, teams that out-homered their opponents in the playoffs were 25-2.
Yeah.
Which is, it says a lot about what it takes to win in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
But neither of these teams really have that. Like the
Right.
Rays, the Rays were very not healthy this year.
True.
And their ISO dipped to like 130 when it was like 165 last year.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the difference between a 100-win team and a, 88-win team or something like that?
86, I think.
86-win team, yeah. Yeah, the Rays had a power outage this year. The Guardians don't really do that. I don't think there's an intention to have power in that lineup. You
Yeah.
look up and down, you have like, Stephen Kwan, very, very good player. One of my proudest moments of this year, picking him as my Guardians player to watch. Very much not a power hitter. Same goes for Miles Straw. At times, same can go for Andres Jimenez, although he is one of the more powerful bats in that lineup. Ahmed Rosario, not exactly known for that.
Yep.
Although the power was there for a little bit this season.
Mm-hmm.
But this series, it's I think it's pretty even, which is exciting.
Yeah, it does seem even. It is weird how these teams are trending very, very differently heading into the season. But if you just look at the teams on paper and what they've done, yeah, it seems pretty even. I mean, Guardians definitely they definitely got an advantage, playing in the AL Central. Rays, the team. Here's what you got to know about the AL Central and AL East. The team that was in third for the AL Central had the exact same record as the last place AL East team.
Yeah, 78-84.
Yeah, the Twins and Guardians Twins and Red Sox both went 78-84.
Yeah.
But Guardians have home field advantage, which I think that's kind of an underrated postseason atmosphere.
Yes.
They've, I just remember like the 2016 ALDS, like David Price was shook.
Rick Porcello was shook. He gave up 3 home runs in 1 inning and almost a 4th.
Yeah.
Mike Napoli hit like a 500-foot foul ball.
Yeah.
After that. Also, one thing that I think should be considered is playoff experience.
True.
The Rays have obviously been to the playoffs in 4 straight seasons now, 2019 to 22. Randy Arozarena has obviously been a postseason legend for a couple of years now. Even though he did get eliminated in the first round last year, he did shine in the few games that he did play. Wander Franco looked very good in the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that postseason experience is something that matters, and it's not really something that a lot of the Guardians have. I'd say Jose
True.
Ramirez has it, and I don't even want to count 2020 as postseason experience. Like if for a
They
team,
played
like
2 games.
for teams that got eliminated in the first round, like I'm willing to understand the Rays 2020 postseason experience, but
Right.
not the Guardians. Like they're two different stories.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's a good storyline also with like Terry Francona's face and one of his former players.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, it's I think MLB.com had this story today, but it was like the youngest team and one of the oldest managers,
Right.
which
yeah.
is such a cool dynamic
Yeah, very cool dynamic.
in the Guardians, obviously.
Yeah.
This is a tough series. I'm not gonna lie.
Tough series to predict, no doubt about it. We've talked about the Guardians' ability to play defense and run the bases. They're top 5 in both,
Yeah.
unquestionably, which is which is interesting. Yeah, it's much different than how most teams get into the playoffs. They get in with power and like getting strikeout, having good FIPS,
Yeah.
on the pitching side. But yeah, so I don't know if I were to, if we're predicting series, obviously. And I guess you sort of have to look at pitching matchups with this. And I think I will say I think I'll go with the Guardians in 3 here.
Okay. I'm gonna take the Guardians in 2.
Yeah.
I really like their ability to prevent homers more than I like the Rays' ability to do so. Like Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie have both been excellent fit pitchers. I got to watch Shane Bieber's season kind of all the way through because I owned him in my F4 league, in which I finished 5th. So I really paid attention to every start of his, and he was excellent at preventing homers. Tristan McKenzie has been one of the best fit pitchers in the second half of the season. I think he
Yeah.
was like top 5 in F4 for like a month-long period.
Mhm.
And then that bullpen too, guys like Emmanuel Clase, James Karinchak in the time that he's been back, and has been better. Trevor Stefan, Sam Henches. I think that this team is going to keep the Rays in the park,
Mhm.
and they're going to find their ways to win. They have power bats in that lineup with Jose Ramirez, with Andres Jimenez at times,
Yeah.
and I think they're going to find a way.
Yeah. How I see it going is I think with Bieber and McClanahan, 2 kind of different trending pitchers. Bieber's been very good. McClanahan has kind of fell off in his own way in the second half, and I think the Guardians are going to end up winning Game 1. They're going to have that energy. I think Game 2, Glass now will be a factor. I think Cash is also good at managing in elimination games, so I think that'll work out. And
That is true.
and I don't know. I just don't see the Rays going. Part of that prediction is I just don't see the Rays going down in
Mhm.
2. But I am picking the Guardians
Yeah.
overall, so it wouldn't
I mean, like,
surprise me.
the Rays bullpen doesn't seem as Rays bullpen-y this year.
That's a true statement.
Like, that was what carried their team in 2020. The reason I believed in them, like, I had them, going to the World Series in July, and I continued to have that prediction throughout the season. And the reason for that was because their bullpen was so lights out from all angles. Their bullpen this year ranked 14th in F-WAR at 3.6. Dodgers led at 8.6.
Wow.
They gave up 1.9 home runs per 9, which is not good by their own standards.
Yeah, and
Like the Jason Adam breakout was interesting. Pete Fairbanks and Brooks Raley have been 2 of the most underrated relievers in all of baseball this year. But as a whole unit, it just doesn't feel like we're in the same era as, the stable.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, we've also talked about this is they just run through so many guys and so many guys get injured, and I guess they just haven't been able to reproduce the same level of talent. And that just kind of happens when you have like 4 guys go down with TJ.
This has
every
got to be
year.
a record. Pete Fairbanks had 1.2 F-WAR in 24 innings pitched this year.
Whoa.
That's crazy. He had a .86 FIP.
Yeah. That's lower than Edwin Diaz.
That was literally, Edwin Diaz had a .9.
Yeah.
That is insane. Obviously, it's a lighter workload, so. By the way, some of these names are definitely not real. Like Phoenix Sanders is not a real person.
Yeah.
He did not throw 14 2/3 for a 3.46 FIP this
No,
year.
no. That's an NPC.
Easton McGee. Actually, I think the Red Sox just claimed him off waivers.
Oh, yeah,
I heard
that's
about
true.
that. Andrew Kittredge is obviously hurt. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these guys are fake, sadly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, they just don't exist. Then the next game on Friday will be at 2 p.m. in St. Louis under the Arch, with the 3-seeded Cardinals going against the 6-seeded Phillies. For information about the series, Phillies won the season series 4-3. They outscored the Cardinals 22-20. Definitely very close matchups there, and both series happened in the first half of July. Before the Cardinals really went on a hot stretch, so maybe that's something to factor there. Cardinals in their final 60 games finished 39-21. That was the fifth best record in baseball. The Phillies finished the season 7-13. That is tied for sixth worst record in baseball. Cardinals were 53-28 at home, which is pretty spectacular, and the Phillies were a mediocre 40-41 on the road. What are you looking at with Cardinals Phillies?
I mean, the obvious storyline is it's the 2011 rematch. You know, that's the last time the Phillies were in the playoffs, and that was also the Phillies are definitely looking for a lot of revenge there. Not that anyone on this current team was there for it, but you know, the Phillies that was like arguably the best team that they had put together of that era, and the Cardinals, as a huge underdog, took them out of the first round, and then ended up winning the World Series.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, Adam Wainwright was
hurt that year.
He was hurt that year, but Pujols and Molina were there.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, and I just, Bryson Stott.
Pujols was in his second to last season with the Cardinals.
Bryson Stott at 12 years old was just...
He was devastated.
Located in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, was just freaking out. He was just freaking out at the Phillies.
He couldn't believe they got Roy Oswald and couldn't do it.
One of the greatest starting rotations ever, and they couldn't get past the Cardinals.
It was Oswald, Halladay, Lee, and Hamels.
And then Vance Worley.
Yeah, Vance Worley.
Who was really good that year.
He was good that year. It's also funny that's just how he's remembered. He was the other guy.
Yeah.
It's like Steve Avery.
Yes.
Like he was just known as being the other guy.
Yeah.
Like he was very good in his own right.
Yeah. He had like some like shutout performance in one of those big playoff games in 95.
I had a stat about Ian Anderson back in like the 2020 playoffs where he was like the youngest Braves pitcher to have this crazy playoff game. The other one was Steve Avery.
Yeah.
It was like only games in baseball history too.
Yeah.
And it was like didn't even work for Braves history because Steve Avery had to do something in like 1991 or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. I'm gonna find it.
What a character he was. Yeah. I think the storylines with this Cardinals have been very hot offensively. Best Cardinals team offensively, I would say, in a pretty long time.
Real quick, I'm sorry. MLB pitchers since 1903 to have at least 5 shutout innings and with at least 8 strikeouts in both of their first 2 career playoff starts. Steve Avery and Ian Anderson.
Yeah,
that's what we were looking at.
That's wild. The Cardinals have a 122 team weighted runs created plus since the start of August. That's second in baseball. And yeah, Paul Goldschmidt, I mean, I guess front runner for MVP. Nolan Arenado
also front runner for MVP.
Yeah, also front runner for MVP. I think did he lead the NLNF or was it Machado?
I think it was Arenado. Because Arenado had 7.3 and I believe Goldschmidt had 7.1.
Yeah, both 7-win seasons there.
No, it was Machado. He had 7.4. The NL MVP race is going to be so close. Like there's what 5 players within 0.6 of each other between Machado, Arenado, Goldschmidt, Freeman, Lindor.
Yeah, I just know they're gonna go with Goldschmidt though.
Yeah, because he hit 317.
Well, also like if you accumulate wins above replacement with offense, you're always going to be credited.
Yeah,
much
he does
more.
have the highest weighted runs created plus of the group by a wide margin.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. We'll get to that in
Yeah,
November.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, and then they've also had some also Albert Pujols mind the 700 home run thing. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been red hot.
Yeah,
Whether or not he hit 700 or not, he's been red hot. Lars Nootbaar, he's
Tommy
been a
Edman.
surprise. Tommy Edman, obviously both, defensively on the bases, at the bat, kind of a triple threat. Yeah, there's a lot of threats in that lineup with St. Louis.
yeah. The Phillies have announced it's gonna be Wheeler, Nola, Suarez
Mm-hmm.
as the 3. The Cardinals have only announced Quintana game 1 and Miles Michaelis game 2. My guess would be Montgomery game 3, if it gets there.
Yep. Yeah, I'm. I think both bullpens have some question marks, but the Phillies definitely have more question marks in their bullpen.
They definitely do. The Phillies have more question marks in general, but I feel like the Phillies have a higher ceiling and a lower floor.
I agree 100%.
Like that sounds like a weird statement, but like at the Phillies at their best, I think have World Series aspirations. Like I think they have the talent to beat just about anyone.
Mhm.
But at their floor, they have potential to be just one of the biggest embarrassments on a baseball field.
I mean, we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen both sides of it. Just when they're just streaking and it's like, oh my God, Wheeler just threw a 10 strikeout complete game shutout, and Harper just hit 2 home runs, and then there's like, oh, they just committed 4 errors
in one play.
Yeah. And, that's Phillies baseball. It's how it's been the past few years.
It's so boomer bust, but it's in the most fun way possible.
Speaking of that, so I mentioned the Phillies are 7-13 in their last 20 games. In that span, they have a 4.82 ERA, but a 3.84 FIP, so like a full run difference. In that span, that's the 4th worst ERA in baseball. Only the 13th worst FIP. They have the 9th worst expected WOBA against, which uses the StatCast data. And worth noting, we've mentioned the Phillies defense before. 6th worst defensive runs saved this year, and 2nd worst outs above average this year. Cardinals are pretty much opposite. They have the 4th best defensive runs saved and outs above average. So it's gonna be a funny series ultimately. Probably.
I think the Phillies are either gonna beat the Cardinals or they're gonna beat themselves.
That's a good point.
I don't see a scenario, or I guess I could see a scenario, but I don't see it likely that the Cardinals just flat out outplay the Phillies like in a fundamental game. Like both teams play well and the Cardinals just happen to come out on top.
Right. Yeah. Just happen to get those clutch hits.
Exactly.
There's going to be
It could happen, but I think I see it more in a way where either the Phillies beat the Cardinals or they beat themselves.
Yeah. That's a good point there. You also mentioned Jose Quintana's going game 1.
Mm-hmm.
He was my most recent How About That. As a reminder, in his last 5 starts, he has a .89 ERA. He has a 1.67 FIP, 25% strikeout rate, 3% walk rate, and also an 83.8 mile per hour average exit velocity against, which is about 5 miles per hour below average. Very significant. And then in terms of the other St. Louis starter, there's Miles Michaelis. And it's funny because you can really take someone's trend and put it in whatever narrative you want. Because if you look at Miles Michaelis's last 14 starts, you could say he's struggling. But if you look at his last 3 starts, he's doing great.
Yeah.
He has a 4.39 ERA in his last 14 starts, but he only allowed 2 earned runs in 15 innings in his last 3 starts. That's not 2. 3 starts. So, over his past few starts, he's looked pretty good. So maybe that's why this St. Louis is throwing him out there. And then Aaron Nola, a note I had on him is
BABIP.
It's even like his overall BABIP against this year was 289, which was about average.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when there's runners in scoring position. I don't know what it is. He's had the same thing 2 years in a row.
Is it like a shift thing?
It could very well
let me
be.
check. Hang on, I'm gonna do some research.
But Aaron Nola, has a 543 OPS against with the bases empty, and that's with a 270 BABIP against. Aaron Nola, with runners in scoring position, has an 852 OPS against, which is like 150 points above average is the OPS, and he allows a 351 BABIP with runners in scoring position, which that implies very bad luck for Aaron Nola. There's just a lot of balls in play that are just dropping in.
Yeah.
But
I'm doing some research currently.
yeah, that's what we do here.
And listen, maybe this narrative that I'm about to build is completely wrong, and I'll tell you if it is.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah, but the Phillies defense has been
All right,
has
so
built a bad reputation.
real quick, when there are no runners on, the Phillies shifted on 71.6% of all pitches this year. Or wait, no, I think I did it wrong. Hold on, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Okay, I mixed that up. All right, disregard that. I did the wrong total pitch parameter.
Oh.
I made it like so every shift, like what percent of shifts had no runners on.
Yeah.
I meant to do.
Savant search can be.
There's
tricky.
so many ways to mess it up.
There are many ways.
And like it'll get the best of you no matter how long you've done it.
It was like, oh,
sometimes that was a 71.6 doesn't sound right.
Yeah. It's like, oh,
yeah. Okay, here we go.
His barrel rate was 123%. No way.
Yeah. So, okay, actual stat. The Phillies shifted on 34.6% of pitches that were thrown with no runners on. But with runners on, or is it's runners in scoring position, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with runners in scoring position, that number went from 34.6% to 9.7%.
Yeah.
So it might just be it looks like they're not shifting. So there's a more standard defense, and he's probably
Right.
balls are just fine in the hole.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
That also looks like it's one of the lowest rates in all of baseball. It's the third lowest behind the A's and Rockies, or in front of the A's and Rockies.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's
So the Phillies shift the third least amount with runners in scoring position, and that probably cost Aaron Nola this year.
Yeah, because and he had the same problem last year, so maybe it's just maybe it just doesn't work for him. I think he's a free agent after 2023, so
Interesting. I wonder if they extend him. They probably should.
they probably should. But yeah, should we get into predictions for Cardinals Phillies?
Let's do it.
I'll say Cardinals in 3.
Okay, which game do you have the Phillies taking?
I'll have them take 2 because Michaelis. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't feel
Interesting.
too confident with Michaelis.
I have.
But I mean, game 3. If I'm the Phillies, I want to take it in 2 because game 3 is Suarez hasn't been the best.
Suarez hasn't been bad. I mean, like I think if he hasn't been his last year's self, but also that was such a fluke. Like he's not that good.
Yeah.
No one's that good. He had like a 1.6 ERA.
1.36.
We have some very differing opinions here because I'm going Phillies in 3, and I have the Cardinals taking game 2. I have them taking the Nola game.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I have them getting like I could see the Cardinals being a team that takes advantage of the high BABIP against Nola. Like they have so many guys that can just paper cut you to death. And that seems to be what happens to Nola. I could see like 9 hits in 5 innings with like 4 earned runs.
Yeah. And like 6 strikeouts, no walks.
Yep.
Yeah.
No home runs.
No home runs. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he had Suarez had a 1.36 ERA in 2021 with 106 innings pitched. That's not supposed to happen.
Oh,
And yeah, he has downgraded this year, but he's still a solid option.
I just remember when I saw his ERA was in the 4s, but that was
It's 3.65.
that was earlier in the year.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm.
How did he end the year?
He 2.95 ERA in his last 14 starts. And a 3.4.
4.55 in September though.
Yeah. So
against the Giants, Nationals, Braves, Cubs, Astros. So I mean, 3 of those against really good playoff teams.
Yeah, I'll stick with my answer.
Okay.
But I mean, the Phillies, they could really do anything and not surprise me.
Yeah, I agree.
It's they're I mean they really fit the wild card name because they are a wild card. Um, all right, so the 4 p.m. game on Friday is
The
Blue
big
Jays
one.
Mariners.
This is gonna be the one that I try to tune into the most. I do have some plans tomorrow, a couple things I have to get done, but I will try to be seated as much as I can for the Jays and the Mariners.
Yeah, the 4-seeded Blue Jays are going to be hosting the 5-seeded Seattle Mariners. The Mariners won the season series 5-2. That included a 4-game sweep back when the Mariners were red hot.
Mm-hmm.
The Mariners outscored the Blue Jays 28-21 in the season series, and those series happened in mid-May, which is when the Blue Jays won the series, and early July, which is when the Mariners swept them in 4 games. The trends are Blue Jays finished the season 24-12, which in that 36 game span was the third best record in baseball. Mariners, meanwhile, finished the season 11-11, but when you go back, the Mariners started the year 29-39. Ever since then, they have a 61-33 record, which is 4th best in baseball. And in the middle of that, they added Luis Castillo, who's going game 1. It's going to be Manoah Gosman. Or no,
And then
Manoah Castillo game 1.
I believe it's the Mariners announced it as Castillo, Ray Gilbert,
Yep.
presumably with Kirby coming out of the bullpen for one of those.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. It will definitely be interesting to see how starters come out of the bullpen for these series. The Blue Jays are 47-34 at home. Mariners are 44-37 on the road. So I don't think either are really a factor. What are you looking at coming into this series?
I mean, I'm looking just to have fun. Like, the Mariners are obviously, I've had a soft spot for them for a while,
Yeah.
really ever since we started this show, and I've always just been waiting for the day that I finally get to see them in the playoffs, which feels very disingenuous to say as a non-Mariners fan,
Right.
but, I mean, like, I'll have my Edgar jersey on tomorrow.
Yeah.
I did, however, pick the Blue Jays to win the World Series at the beginning of the year.
That's true.
It was either win or go. It was Blue Jays Giants.
I think
it will not be that.
I think you picked them to win. I picked them to go, but to lose to the Dodgers.
Right. So I'm very conflicted here. The Blue Jays, they have been relatively inconsistent throughout the season, especially on offense. We all know what their offense has the potential to do.
Yep.
It's just not a guarantee that they're going to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Vlad had a bit of a down year. I feel it's weird saying down year, but just compared by his 2021 standards,
Oh yeah.
it felt like there still was a little more to be desired, especially with the batted ball statistics. He kind of went back to his old habits with the ground balls.
Yep.
Bo Bichette was kind of mid for most of the year, but then he was amazing in like August and September.
Yeah. Springer's been up and down.
Springer's been up and down. Also was hurt for a little bit, I believe.
Yep.
But it's going to be a fun series, and I hope this one goes 3.
Yeah, and speaking of that offense, they're on the upswing right now. Since the start of September, the Blue Jays have a 129 team weighted runs created plus. That's the best in baseball since the start of September. So they're on the upswing right now. The Mariners' offense isn't, it's not what's necessarily winning them games. It's more their starting pitching and bullpen.
Yes.
Is what's winning them the ball games. But going to the Blue Jays starters, Alek Manoah, in his last 8 starts, has a flat 1 ERA, 2.84 FIP to go with that in 54 innings pitched. And then with batted ball data, he has a 3.6% barrel rate against him and a 27.3% sweet spot percentage, which is about 5 percentage points below average. And it was like top 5 in a sample that I saw out of 100 in that span.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Gausman and Alek Manoah are number 4 and number 5 in expected WOBA against since August 21st. Number 4 and 5 out of 103 pitchers with 100 plus batted balls in that span. So you have to love that 1-2 punch. We did talk about Robbie Ray and
The home runs.
The home runs, and do you start him in the first 2 games? They ended up, going with him game 2. What did you think about that?
It's interesting. It's going to be his first time pitching in Toronto since he won the Cy Young there.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't last time due to reasons.
Yeah.
You could probably figure it out for yourself. But it's a very interesting matchup because the home run problem is very real for him, and it's concerning facing a right-handed heavy Blue Jays lineup. He'll also be facing Kevin Gausman, who had like a 386 BABIP against this year.
Yeah.
I'm sure you it doesn't look like it's written here, but yeah, what was Kevin Gausman's BABIP? Because it was like one of the top BABIPs like in any qualifying season ever.
It was quite high, but I will say, and I know his
363.
His average against on ground balls was very high. However, I was looking at stats. Out of 81 pitchers to have 400 plus batted balls against them this year, I think his line drive rate against was like 5th most, and his sweet spot percentage against was 3rd most.
Yeah,
which is it was one of those two. Like,
so like he deserved like a 310, 320 BABIP against.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
not a 360.
Yeah, probably not.
So he had to be fair, his ground ball rate did go down to 39%. It was at 42% last year.
Yeah. So, I don't think it's completely bad luck. His
Did Fangraphs just add in like separate? Is this just a postseason thing? But I'm looking at Kevin Gausman's Fangraphs page, and it looks like they might have put in like separate columns for playoff games.
Oh, that's fun.
Because I'm looking at Kevin Gausman, and there's like separate rows highlighted in 2014 with the Orioles, 18 with the Braves, 21 with the Giants, where it's like 8 innings pitched, 2 innings pitched, 6 innings pitched.
Yeah, that has to be
like no wins above replacement listed, but all other stats other than expected ERA are there. I think they're doing, because I'm looking at 2021 Kevin Gausman of the Giants and looking at a 0% home run to fly ball ratio and thinking that can't be right.
Right. Yeah, and
so it looks like they did that. That's cool.
Gausman has had
He had a 42.9% left on base rate in the playoffs last year. That's tough.
Oh dang. Yeah, but yeah, Gausman's had a very interesting year. His FIP was 238 or something like that.
Yes,
and
exactly that.
His expected ERA was like 3.34.
Yep, exactly that.
Which is just
good stuff, Chris.
It's just like you rarely ever see that. Usually there's a big correlation, but having like a full run apart is pretty wild, especially when the numbers are that low. But I don't know. That's more, for another day. Robbie Ray, though, as we talked about, last 5 starts, he's game 2 starter for the Mariners. 8 home runs in his last 5 starts. That's in 27 1/3 innings pitched. That's 2.6 homers per 9 in his last 5 starts. 5.27 ERA, 5.89 FIP. So not the best. Although I expected the Blue Jays to have better numbers against lefties, but they actually slug worse against lefties.
Huh.
Not significantly. It's like a 6-point difference, but I expected with like
Bichette,
Springer, Vladdy Jr.
Yeah.
I expected them to
Teoscar Hernandez.
I expected them to absolutely hammer lefties, but I guess that's just not the case.
Interesting.
And yeah, Ray I think does a little worse against righties. So there's that. Luis Castillo's going game 1 though. What do you think about that?
I think it's going to be a pitcher's duel tomorrow. Like between Castillo and Manoah. I really like what we're going to see on the mound tomorrow. I think there's a good chance we see like a 2-1, 3-2 game. You know, probably coming down to the bullpens.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think also like, the Blue Jays pitching staff, they're not going to be facing an upper tier offense also. So, but the Mariners are going to have to face a very good offense there.
I'm excited to see Julio. Like I think he could have a really cool moment tomorrow if he does something big in this series.
Yes, 100%. I'm looking forward to a fully packed Rogers Center, man.
Yes. Yep.
It's been too long.
That is facts.
It's been too long since we've had
Yeah.
playoff baseball at the Rogers Center.
This team also definitely did not have postseason experience in 2020. The Blue Jays. This is their first
that's
time.
fake.
We're on an equal playing field with playoff experience here, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree there, except for the people that came in.
Except for like Gosman and
Yeah.
like Carlos Santana.
Yeah, and Luis Castillo. Yeah, no,
I'm not counting Luis Castillo. I'm not like if Jesse Winker was not on the IL, I wouldn't count that either.
Yeah.
Same with Eugenio Suarez.
Luis Castillo's going from pitching in an empty Truist Park
To a full Rogers Center. That's his playoff experience.
Yeah, no.
Like the Tomahawk Chop still playing, just nobody there. That was such a weird vibe.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, this is a tough one to predict. It's a tough one to predict.
It is a tough one. I really like the Mariners in a game 3. I just don't know which of the first two they take.
Right.
Because I think Logan Gilbert has a lot of potential to set himself up as a big game pitcher, especially going against.
I don't love the Blue Jays pitching depth.
Exactly.
What I will say is if this is a 5-game series, I'm taking the Mariners.
Yeah, I would absolutely do that. 3-game, though, it's a lot different. Like, if it comes down to game 3, it's going to be Gilbert versus either Jose Barrios or Ross Stripling.
Yeah.
And Barrios has struggled this year, but he's still, a big name. Stripling's been pretty under the radar this year, but, is that the guy you want in a do-or-die game? I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, short leash.
However, yeah, I think my prediction's got to be either Blue Jays in 2 or Mariners in 3.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, you mentioned Friday is going to be a good pitcher's duel. Luis Castillo coming in. With a series like this, with just so many factors. I mean, you got to break it down. Like, I like the Mariners bullpen a lot more. I
do too.
I like the Mariners starting pitching depth more, but I'll take the first 2 starters of the Blue Jays better, which that's more important in a series like this.
But I also don't think it's that crazy of a gap. Like I think the gap would be even shorter if they put Kirby in game 2.
True. And then offense, I'll obviously take Blue Jays. And when it's and then manager wise, I don't know. This John Schneider guy seems like he's decent. I don't know.
It sounds like he knows what he's. Yeah, it feels like it's a non-factor for now.
Yeah.
It could be a factor, but I'm not considering it right now.
Yeah. With a series like this, I gotta I just gotta favor the home team
That's fair.
because like it's the Rogers Center and it's all 3 games. And yeah, I'll take Blue Jays in 2.
Okay, I'll go Mariners in 3 just to be on the opposite side.
That's good.
I mentioned the pitching staff or the pitching duel that we could see tomorrow, and if it comes down to bullpens, I like the Mariners better.
Yeah.
And then game 3, I'll give game 2 to the Blue Jays.
What I could see is Friday. It is a pitcher's duel, like you mentioned. It's each pitcher maybe gives up 1 run.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to the bullpens. I do like the Mariners bullpen more, but I see like Blue Jays walk it off.
Yeah.
It's game 2, and
They have some dramatic postseason moments.
yes,
Like, 2015, obviously there was the Batista bat flip and the whole comeback in that 7th inning there. 2016, they walked off to sweep the number 1 team in the American League.
also Edwin Encarnacion in the wild card
Yep.
game.
Also, can we just agree that the 2016 Rangers weren't real?
Yeah.
Have you looked like their run differential that year? I know that I don't like using run differential, but for a team that had the best record in the American League.
You just had Sam Dyson out there in your biggest moment.
Yeah,
outta here.
exactly. Like, no, I'm not recognizing you.
So yeah, I see game 1 being very close, and then I could see game 2 like,
the Rangers. So they went 95-67 in 2016 for the best record in the AL. Do you want to guess what their Pythagorean win-loss was?
Was it like 85-77?
It was 82-80.
No way.
They had 765 runs scored, 757 allowed. They had a +8 run differential.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The best record in the American League. Anyways, like I was saying, that team was fake.
Yeah, fake team. And
Mickey Mouse.
And they got
yeah.
swept as a 1 seed.
They got swept as a 1 seed. Yeah.
Which sucks for them. So I could see a very close Blue Jays victory in game 1, crowd goes crazy, and then I think game two
Is more convincing.
is more convincing. Like maybe Robbie Ray, he goes out. It's like 4 innings, 3 earned runs, maybe a couple solo homers. Gosman,
Maybe a walk and then a homer, or like a hit leading to a homer.
yeah, Gosman, maybe 5, 6 innings, 1 run, and Blue Jays win that game like 5-2 or something like that.
Yeah.
I could see that if I'm looking at my what's it called?
Your crystal ball.
My crystal ball.
Yeah.
I was gonna say globe, but that wasn't the right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Thank you for assisting me.
Yeah. The alley-oop.
Now we go to
The last series.
what will end up being the 8 p.m. game on Friday, as there's literally no West Coast games.
Yeah.
Everything is Missouri and east of that. Yeah.
That is very true.
Missouri's west of Ohio, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. We'll get the geography out later.
Geography Twitter's so mad listening to this.
Yeah, they want us banned. Get them out of the chat. Yeah, Mets Padres, a lot of stars in this series.
Yeah.
A lot of big names. Padres won the season series 4-2. They outscored the Mets 36-23. Kind of significant there. The series happened in early June and late July. What are you thinking coming into the series?
So there's one thing. So I did a quick TV piece about like previewing these series.
Yep.
And I was, talking about Mets Padres. And you know when you have a hunch about something and you turn out to be more right than you could have imagined?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, like Juan Soto's coming back to Citi Field. I'm pretty sure he like plays well in that ballpark. Do you want to guess what his career OPS is?
At Citi Field.
Yeah, 30 games played.
I'm gonna 1058.
1173.
Yeah.
1173 OPS.
That's crazy.
In 30 games played. That's wild.
That's wild, yeah. Yeah. That's pretty wild. That's a factor. If we're talking trends here, so I guess the Mets have had sort of a struggle period where they lost the NL East, and I will acknowledge they did underperform. But in that stretch, they went 16-13, and in that same stretch, the Padres had a worse record.
Yes.
They were 15-14. The Padres also have been under 500 since June 17th. They have a 48-49 record. So yeah, even with big trade deadline for them, it's just they've been. They just haven't really looked like a non-playoff team, but they haven't really looked like a playoff team as of late.
This is another team like the Phillies that I think they have a very high ceiling, but they could also just underperform it so easily.
Yeah.
Like Manny Machado and Juan Soto in the same offense is lethal. Obviously, you don't have Tatis, but there's plenty of replacements in that lineup. Like Jay Cronenworth can be solid for them. Trent Grisham. Is this gonna be Trent Grisham's first like real playoff experience since the 2019 game?
Yeah, first was
because 2020
crowd.
Also didn't count for them, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they played 2 series,
6 games in front of no crowds.
Yeah. That's true.
The Padres have been to the playoffs twice, and we've still never seen playoff Petco, which is so wrong.
Yeah.
Because they
right.
played in what? Well, I guess they did play in Petco, but it was empty. For the Cardinals series.
Oh yeah, they did.
And then they went to Texas to lose to the Dodgers in 3.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's obviously big names with the Padres, but I don't know. I feel like with the Mets, like I think a lot of people are poo-pooing them right now because, like, the whole narrative's like, they had a 10.5 game lead and they lost it. They're on the downswing. I think a lot of people are trying to force an LOL Mets narrative when there's not an LOL Mets narrative. This team won 101 games. They have Max Scherzer. They have Jacob deGrom. They have an offense that are all having like career years right now.
Yes.
With Jeff McNeil.
Brandon Nimmo.
Jeff McNeil just won the batting title, but also had some power this year. Brandon Nimmo was looking great. I mean, he just had a 6 for 8 day with 2 home runs.
Yep.
It was against the Nationals, but
no, who cares?
He's been looking good the whole year. Francisco Lindor was like what, a 7-win player.
6.8.
Yeah, 6.8.
He had the season that we were all hoping for.
Yeah, he looked like the guy that got paid $340 million. What else? I mean,
Pete Alonso's still solid.
yeah, Pete
offensively.
Alonso, a 40 home run guy.
What did he have? Like didn't he lead the league in RBIs or something?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't look at that stat.
we would never.
I have no idea. I heard some stuff. People were talking about his MVP case because of his RBI. I just know that.
Yeah, I memorized Gosman's FIP and expected ERA,
Right,
but I could not recount Pete Alonso's
He
RBI.
probably had like, I don't know, 100 something, whatever.
Maybe he had like 200,000 million. I don't really care.
It's that video of Joe Biden where he's like 500 million trillion,
Yeah,
whatever that is.
But the point is, the Mets are a really good team.
Yeah.
And they're gonna sweep this Padres team. And
Wow.
it's just not.
Wow.
It's just the Padres have been meh this whole time, and I'm getting like, for a team that's only been to the playoffs once in the last.
You didn't even get into all the notes.
No, I didn't. But I'll get into them later. But I don't want to get on my soapbox here. But the Padres, we've been like, for a team that's been to the playoffs once in the last
15 plus years.
15 plus years. I'm already tired of them because, at the trade deadline, it was like, they got Juan Soto, they got Josh Bell. Are they going to compete with the Dodgers for the NL West? And it's like, and the Dodgers just kept sweeping them and sweeping them. They ran out of brooms. They were sweeping them so much. And I don't know. I'm just, maybe it's an emotional pick with me picking the Mets for a sweep. And I know the Mets can LOL Mets themselves into a sweep where they get swept by the Padres. But, it's just, I don't know. I'm a little tired of this Padres team.
So Blake Snell in the second half.
He's their game 2 starter, but
he is their game 2 starter going against probably DeGrom, who's struggled in his last couple of starts.
Oh, should we get into that thing about maybe him not starting?
Is that a thing?
It's been a thing. I don't know if not injury related. It was a thing of like, oh, they might save him.
You can't do that, man. You can't do that.
I just don't know about that. He's TBD. It's TBD right now.
Is it for game 2?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a thing where like, oh, if the Mets win, they're going to go with Bassett, and if they lose, it's an elimination game, they'll go with DeGrom.
You have to, I guess, saving him for game 3, sure, but like think about the 2019 Dodgers. Like they threw away game 4 of the NLCS and did a bullpen game so that they can just throw Walker Buehler out there for game 5. And what did they do? They lost.
Yeah.
Like you can't. I get that this is a bit of a different scenario where you want to save DeGrom for a possible game 1 of the DS versus the Dodgers, but you got to beat the Padres first, man. Like you can't save DeGrom. You got to throw him out there. Like especially if you're expecting him to opt out this year and ask for $50 million a year.
Yeah.
Like you got to let him prove that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, let's say, so hypothetically they move on, they face the Dodgers starting Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
If they go Scherzer, DeGrom back to back, then
it's Bassett game 1, Scherzer game 2, then DeGrom game 3.
Literally,
and that's such an easy game too. DeGrom game 3 at home against Tyler Anderson.
Right, and if it goes 7, Scherzer and DeGrom both are able to go
Well,
twice.
it wouldn't go 7 because it'd be the division series.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the second playoff series, man.
Yeah.
Got me.
And that's fair.
But I mean, Scherzer could go.
Yeah,
Game
Scherzer
5.
could go game 5, and then you could go DeGrom game 1 of the CS, and it's all back to order.
Yeah, and it's just
you can't. You gotta throw DeGrom game 2, man. Especially if you lose game 1.
Exactly. So maybe that's the thing, is it's TBD because they're just wondering, like, all right, well, if they just told DeGrom and Bassett, like, hey, do you want to just both prepare for the start tomorrow? Yeah. And then
But even still, like, I think you still gotta go all out. Like, you can't just take your foot off the pedal there.
Yeah, no.
If it's Snell versus Bassett, I'll probably take the Padres that game, especially because like you put in the notes, Snell in the second half, 14 starts, 78 innings pitched, a 2.19 ERA, 2.23 FIP, 34% strikeout rate, 6% walk rate, second in MLB pitcher FWAR, fifth in ERA, third in FIP. He's been a top 5 starter in the second half, no doubt about it. Yu Darvish has also been solid for the Padres down the stretch.
Yeah.
I'm getting the exact numbers pulled up now. But he's, the Padres, we're seeing the rotation that we've expected for a while now, and it's gone pretty quiet.
Right. And then
Since June 7th.
and Joe Musgrove, very underrated as well.
Joe Musgrove has been. He got extended.
He's probably going to be a Game 3 starter if that
Over
happens.
Yu Darvish's last 20 starts, he has a 2.68 ERA and a 3.25 FIP, 149 strikeouts, and 22 walks in 134 and a third innings pitched. That is outstanding. 17 home runs allowed. Obviously not great, but whatever. It's 17 and 134 innings pitched is still not outrageously bad.
Yeah. So yeah, the Mets are 54 and 27 at home, very very good. Padres 45 and 36 on the road, which I think is better than their home record. Because then
Which
they would
doesn't
have
make any sense.
they would have 44 wins
Yes.
at home. Which is weird. Because I don't know, just the idea of just the Padres in those gray uniforms just coming into Citi Field and just coming in and taking
Hey
it.
man, the last time the Mets were in the playoffs, they got booted by Connor Gillespie. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Like Connor Gillespie's, and I haven't heard that name in years, draft nominee.
That's true. But yeah, I don't know. I believe in the Mets in this series.
Okay.
What do you got?
You were so passionate against the Padres that I kind of want to pick them, but I also agree with you.
Yeah.
Not to the same degree, but I think the Mets are the better team here, and I think home field advantage at Citi Field is going to matter so much.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld's probably going to be there.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld will be there. Timmy Trumpet will probably be back.
Yeah.
'Cause why not? I am going to go Mets in 3. I'm not as passionate about the Padres and their misfortune as you are, but I will still pick the Mets in this series.
I was lost in the rant, and I did forget a little bit about the Blake Snell numbers, but still emotionally, I'm taking Mets in 2 because there's more to this than starting pitching.
It was just so funny how every series you were like, all right, predictions, what do we got? And midway through your end, you're like, and the Mets are going to sweep this series against the Padres.
Yeah, well, and Blake Snell has been doing well, but there is more.
Yeah.
There is more to the series than starting pitching, and I like the Mets offense more. I like the Mets bullpen situation more, and I like Scherzer and DeGrom better than Darvish and Snell.
That's fair.
And both of them have postseason experience. Snell, it's only been he pitched in 2019 too. So Snell has postseason experience, and Darvish does too. So some experienced guys, but I'll take the Mets in 2.
Indeed.
And you will take Mets in 3.
Before we wrap up, did you see Stephen Vogt homering in his last at bat?
Yeah,
that was cool. It was I don't know if you saw this too, but his first career hit was a home run, and it was virtually the same spot, the same exit velocity, launch angle, pitch was in the same location, it was very identical. It was very cool.
Yeah, that was very cool to see. A thing where you're you gotta love social media, because
Dallas Braden also nailed the call with Glenn Kuiper, I believe his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Play-by-play, but Dallas got so hype, which is funny and just beautiful.
Yeah, we love him on the call. I mean, it was fun when the A's were good, because Dallas Braden was great to listen to.
Yeah. I'll never forget that. I think it was the Matt Olson walk-off home run game against the Astros in 2018. There was that controversial play at the plate that the A's got the benefit of the doubt on, and then Olson won that game. And for a second, there was real thought of could the A's steal the AL West division?
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't happen that way, but that was a fun era in Oakland.
Yeah, absolutely. So that does it for the playoff prediction portion. Yep. But yeah, we do have to get to one last thing. A very sad thing for a lot of a lot of communities, just the baseball community, baseball stats slash sabermetric community, and above replacement radio. Sarah Langs, who was a guest not long ago, maybe 6-7 weeks ago, who had a great 35-minute interview with us, episode 202. If you haven't checked it out yet, um, just great stuff. She announced on Twitter that she has ALS. Um, and she's been diagnosed with it. It's yeah, she's someone who's I think in her or early 30s. Um, it's been really sad to think about.
It's been a really tough day. I've had a lot of time to process the news. I think I saw it around probably 11:30, maybe 12 this afternoon. We're now approaching midnight, and this hasn't gotten any easier. Um, there's really nothing that can prepare you for that news because there's just so much that hits you. It's knowing that a person has this, knowing what we've understood about this disease for however long, especially as baseball fans, because ALS is very intertwined with baseball history. Obviously, it's Lou Gehrig's disease. Um, yeah, it's devastating.
It's a terrible thing because I think you mentioned it's extremely random. Like, you know, with lung cancer, you can be like, oh, this person smoked a lot, or with heart disease, like maybe they lived an unhealthy lifestyle. With ALS, it's just we don't know the causes of it, and it's just completely by chance, and it's very unfair.
Yeah, it's unfair is the word. There's no justice in the world if someone like Sarah Langs has to undergo stuff like this. ALS is it just comes and go. It just chooses who it wants to infect, and
Yeah.
it chose the wrong person this time because I think I speak for not just you and I, but pretty much everyone that's in saying that we're better people in having known her, even if it was just for one interview conversation, whether it was, a 35-minute interview or if you've known her for years, talked to her on several occasions. I think she has blessed every single person that she's talked to or have known. The outpouring of support I've seen on Twitter has been really heartwarming today. It's been one of the things that's been keeping me going through all this because you and I have obviously been really big fans of Sarah for a long time.
Yep.
And we've mostly known her through her work.
Yep.
And it's cool to see that we're not alone in that. I saw a lot of tweets saying I've really only seen your work, but you've always put a smile on my face, and best of luck with everything.
Yeah, everything is completely positive. I mean, just looking at her social media feed, it's so much positivity, and it's been, it's kept being like that. She's probably been diagnosed with this disease for a long time now, and you wouldn't be able to tell that, the vibes are good. We had a full on interview where she probably knew she had ALS, and and it was completely fine. She seemed happy to talk to us. So yeah, I mean, in terms of you hate to have her have ALS, but we know she's just gonna ride on and be positive all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you read her statement in full. And part of it was she said I'm still me. I'm still gonna do my thing during the postseason.
Yep.
It'll be like nothing else. I do want to read the last thing that she wrote in her statement.
Mm-hmm.
It was 4 paragraphs long. The last one was, "All I ask is that you consider giving others grace. Not me, but the next person you encounter where something seems amiss. You never know what others are dealing with. Trust me." And I think there's a lot of sayings and phrases out there that get thrown around a lot that can be deemed cliche at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, the phrase "you never know what someone's going through" does get thrown around a lot, but it can never be cliche. It's just as true the first time you hear it as it is the 300th time you hear it, because you really do truly never know.
Yeah. 100%, 100%. So yeah, we'll unfortunately have to end on that. But you know,
Yeah, our thoughts and prayers are with Sarah, her loved
Yeah.
ones, everyone that she's gotten to know. It's been hard for us, and I'm sure it's been hard for everybody else.
yeah, yeah. Positive thoughts for Sarah Langs and her future with this, and obviously a thank you for all her work and her work with us for that interview over the past years. So yeah, that'll do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all of the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope to see you next time, where we will probably be talking about the upcoming Division Series. We will see you then.
This conversation is over.